this manna, Mike. I'm not sure what you own, but this here is on the mark. Like a spiral from a 5-star recruit, we throwing darts, really focused. WD-40 couldn't stop the way we grinded. In the trenches, putting that work in, I relate to all my linemen. This is for the men, the boys do not belong here. Tiptoeing to the top, we doing cone drills. The hottest show in the world, you don't even gotta search. Steady putting in work, you see the sweat up on my shirt. They wasn't aware of us at first, we wasn't on their radar. Now every play that we make, they gon' say similar to a razor blade, we gon' stay sharp. The news ain't official if it's not on the mark.
What it do? Mark Henry here on the On Your Mark Show, powered and sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. Every play I compete. Live from the Fishbowl Radio Network. It's Wednesday, man. Hope everybody's having a great week, man. Got my guy in the building. We got a lot of things to unwrap today, man, with the culture and climate of athletics when it comes to high school and collegiate athletics. This guy's tapped in, and he's one of the resources that you need to know about, my guy Jordan Grant. We're going to talk about a little NIL, a little recruiting. He's really, really one of those guys that you need to lean on the basketball side of things. I know a lot of things I talk about or deal with is more on the football side. But this guy's one of those guys in the area, in the state of Texas, that's tapped in and starting to be national with this thing on the basketball side of things, my guy Jordan Grant. What's up with it, man?
What's going on, man? I appreciate you having me on.
Man, absolutely, man. Always family. This is my guy, man. We go back a little bit, and, he's been doing some great things. But before we start to dive in what we're going to talk about today, for the listeners that haven't, been acquainted with you, give us a little background on what you do and how you got started.
So, man, how y'all doing, man? My name is Jordan Grant. I'm a Morehouse graduate. I graduated from North Carolina High School. Currently, I'm an NIL representation. I advocate for the youth, and I do a little bit of things with, middle school basketball and, things like that. That's a little background on me.
Absolutely. Now, before we dive into NIL, I think the big important thing, and what we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, is the early identification. On the football side of things, that's kind of, something that I'm really heavy into. And we talk about here how to get recruited exposure. Everybody wants to know what's the secret sauce, but I think identifying those traits and things early is the big key, so that you can get the ball rolling. Speak on that a little bit, and also when you get done with that, talk about how you're implementing that with the new organization and the new org that you're with.
So when it comes to, being recruited or whatnot, it's all about having someone who can advocate for you. The youth, as far as the high school, when it comes to recruiting, if you look at 5 stars and 4 stars are the main guys with the attention, but you need guys who are in those rooms or got those connections with these colleges to where they're able to, give you that pitch or whatnot. As far as the middle school level, personally, my thing is connecting with parents, connecting with players, building a relationship to where, I'm seeing them grow as an individual. You feel what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And being a person who advocates for the youth, my main thing is building that relationship, keeping everything tight, and being able to, as they get older, deliver those traits and things that they do well to these coaches to get them recruited. That's my main take on it.
Now, you just stepped in with a new organization that you're kind of working with closely. 5th and 6th graders on the basketball side of things. Tell me about the org and what you're doing.
So with that organization, it's Southern Assault. They're in the 3SB, which is Adidas. I'm basically the middle school head recruiter over there, so I'm helping, bring guys in and things like that, building a relationship with the parents, making sure everything is functional the right way. That's my main job with the middle school.
Now, when you come in and I saw a couple of posts that you made, urging parents to tap in with you to kind of, get the ball rolling. I got a young nephew that's class of 2030 down in the Houston area, and shout out to my guy Christian Bean. He's starting to come around to where he needs to be, and this kind of started the process just a little bit with his parents. My sister and her husband. Basketball was his thing. As a young kid. Now he's going into his 8th grade year, so things start to have to change. He stepped into the AAU arena, starting out at the rec ball, but talking to those two parents, taking it away from them, being who they are relationship wise. It took me something to say, hey, you need to get him out of rec. You know what I'm saying? I think he's gone so far as he can go.
Right.
I see certain things that he's doing well that he needs to get the proper coaching, the proper training, the specialization as far as certain things working on his game, not just basketball-wise, but training-wise. Right. And I think that's the message you were trying to send. Talk about that a little bit. That's something we talk about here on the On Your Mark show when it comes to exposure, getting them in the right places, getting them with the right, people, the village type of aspect that you just talked about, getting them in the right rooms.
Man, that is key. Just being able to get in the gym, being around guys that are good at what they do. Those are main things when it comes to preparation and getting your son or daughter prepared for that next level. Also being able to play on an organization that has a platform to where they're able to be marketable and be seen and be promoted and things like that. Those are key factors when it comes to development and investing into your kid.
Investment, key word, I think, and we talk about this all the time. Shout out to Coach Jay, Coach Athletics, Epic Sports Apparel CEO, and myself. We preach this, investing now for later. I think that's a crucial point in recruiting that, guys, families are starting to see that's paying off now, and when they get to college.
Right.
It's the investment early. How do you try to get that across to parents?
I always tell parents, like, at the end of the day, like, the more you invest into your kid or pour into your kid, the more things you'll get out of them. Not saying spoil them, but just being able to make sure they're going to trainings, making sure they're eating the right things, making sure they're getting the right let's say they're injured and things, making sure they're getting the right treatment and stuff like that. Those are things that matters when it comes to investing. You want to just make sure that you always on top of that and that you getting your kid what they need.
Well, I think the investment is key. When you talk about collegiate athletics going from high school to college, it's an investment. And it's right now we're gonna touch on some of those things. It's a money thing now. When you get a scholarship, you're getting money to go to school. You're getting money to perform academically and athletically. Mm-hmm. And the earlier you get those things ingrained, I think it helps the athlete down the line, and the parents have to understand that.
Right. Correct.
Now, let's talk about this organization a little bit. I've heard of them. They've been around for a while. Where can they find you guys at?
So Southern Assault is we typically have kids out of Texas, Oklahoma, a few guys from maybe Louisiana area, but we're mainly in that little triangle base.
Okay.
But we play nationally. We all over, from 3rd grade all the way up to 11th grade. So if you have anyone who's interested in basketball, Southern Assault, I feel would be a great situation for your child for sure.
Now, what are some of the things when it comes to, because there's levels to it, even at a young age. I spoke about rec, the difference between that. Right. I think the parents, and people around them have to be kind of educated in that process in looking at it. Sometimes, everybody wants to be an AAU player when it comes to that.
Right.
But everybody's maybe not ready for that level of competition.
Right.
There's a level of dedication as well. From the family's perspective, hey, you have to travel.
Right.
You have to be ready for this. It's a different animal. How do you guys try to explain that to them? Maybe when you have a tryout, you bring them in, maybe they're just not ready to take that next step.
So with me personally, man, like I was stated before, this team is a 3SB team, which is an Adidas team. So majority of the teams are sponsored. That's a part of the organization. So, when we have tryouts and things like this, we're looking for particular talent. It's more of you have, so there's these things called, it's circuits going on. So you got a Nike circuit, you got Adidas circuit, you got a Puma circuit, you got Under Armour, all of these different circuits.
Right.
So all of these, these kids are trying out for these different teams and different circuits. With us, we host tryouts and things like that, but we typically go out and recruit guys and bring them to our organization because it's like, we have a certain standard that we're looking to reach to where it's not just for the guys that are. Where I'm getting to it is that Southern Assault is the organization that has a platform that we use to grow and put guys in that can play at that level.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right. Well, the biggest thing that you hear about, things when we talk about basketball, football, and when it comes to select or teams that travel teams and things like that, it kind of trickles down from we're talking basketball, so it starts at the NBA, starts at the collegiate level, high school, and then on so down. So things kind of work in that pattern as far as how things are viewed exactly, and shaped up for the kids to be successful. And I think that's an important product that you guys are doing. And I know that when you do something, it's 10 toes down.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's one reason I wanted to have you on today, is to talk about that. This is the prime season for that, and talk about how the organization supports families as well. Because I know Southern Assault's been around for a long time.
Yes, sir. We've been around for a while. When it comes to supporting the family, like, we look at everybody the same. Not one player is bigger than the other. Not one parent is, bigger than the other. It's a family-oriented thing.
Right.
So, when it comes to building and relationships, like, all of the parents, we all on the same page. Everything makes sense. This is an organization where we're family-based oriented, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I that's one reason I wanted to talk to you today about that, because I know the AAU thing is one of the biggest things in the country. And now 7-on-7 is kind of taking that model where, competing in tournaments nationally, getting the exposure piece around it. And that's something that, we talk about weekly here on Your Mark Show, is the exposure piece. Now, you being in the basketball realm, before we switch gears, what are some of the things that, parents and players need to know about basketball in general, since we're on that subject? What helps them get the exposure? Now, 5th and 6th grade, you're starting out early identification. You're just trying to identify different things and traits. That doesn't mean that they're a finished product by any means.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're an all-star ready to go to college. That's just the beginning.
Right.
But when they get to high school, like, you shouldn't be trying to figure this stuff out.
Right.
You should kind of know, hey, I'm either going this way or that way. And then the coaches really think, one thing about AAU is the coaches have, from a collegiate standpoint, have access to these kids very early. Get out to see them. Talk about that a little bit.
So development is key when it comes to the middle school. Being able to go out and find a product and develop them into a different caliber, as well as building that relationship, is my main thing.
Right.
I'm all about development. I'm all about relationships. When it comes to the recruiting part, being able to have a family that you trust, and somebody like me, because I'm an advocate for kids.
Absolutely.
I go out and I text coaches here and there all the time. Hey, I got kids with this. What are you looking for? I have this kid here, this kid there. So I do things like that.
Right.
So that's a main part in what I do.
Yeah.
So being able just to advocate for these kids and be another, I wouldn't even say agent, just being a connect, voice to get his name to this coach is my main thing when it comes to everything.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. You have experience in dealing with NIL and helping kids get to the next level. Agent, and then one reason I'm bringing that up is people like to stereotype or put people in one box, and they hear agent and they think that your responsibilities or your allegiances or alliances to a player is based on money.
Right.
I know you're not like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing about that is, even in the 7-on-7 world with 7-on-7 coaches, that I've had a chance to get to know over the years, they always want to call them street agents or street coaches and things like that. That's a terrible label, because you guys do more than just that. It's not just about trying to, the real, true, genuine guys really are about that life. They're not really just out just to get money and get in somebody's pockets.
Right.
Talk about that and how you try to, set the standard for that. 'Cause I think that's a big reason. It's, another reason we had you on the show today as well.
Yeah, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I've been called a street agent before.
Absolutely.
Just my personal take on it is, me personally, man, I have a whole background. I done went to college. I done graduated college. I done got certifications. I don't go around telling people that I'm an agent.
Right.
I'm more of an advocate for a kid rather than being a typical agent, because I'm not looking, like I said, with me it's bigger than money. I'm not looking to make money off a kid. I'm looking to get the kid exposure, as well as like show these coaches that I have kids that they can hit me up to get. That's my whole take on the whole agency thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really me. Like, speaking on me, I can't speak for someone else.
Absolutely.
Or the whole street agent thing, but it's just like when you have credentials and you have education behind it, and the facts, it's more of, I look at it as being more of an advocate for a kid when it comes to me.
Well, I think advocacy is something, and mentorship is something that's a lost art, or the real guys that's doing it. You don't see them, making a big thing or beating their chest about it. That's something I see you work behind the scenes, and it's because we keep in touch all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you work behind the scenes with no noise, and that's the big thing about it is you're not making any noise, you're not beating your chest. And, hey, I'm that guy.
Right.
No, it's just genuine hard work behind the scenes. The proof is in the pudding by the kids going on to the next level. You don't have to have a big pomp and circumstance, a big parade to say, oh, okay, this kid got this, or he got to school this, this was my guy. You're doing it behind the scenes, and you're doing it in a genuine aspect, and that's what makes you different and successful at what you do.
That. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that, man.
Now, NIL, it's a big thing, in the state of Texas, around the country. In some states, it's been going on for a little while. A few weeks ago, or I guess maybe a month or so ago, we got the big ruling, that NIL is available for high school athletes in a sense. And, I think you have to read the fine print on this, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But kind of explain and go over what they did here with this, because it's specific things, and you have to meet or specific guidelines that you have to follow to get NIL in the state of Texas, and you have to really be streamlined with this. So talk about that a little bit.
So, yeah, they did just legalize NIL for Texas kids. I've been reading on it. Some of the guidelines that needed to be hit in order for a kid to receive NIL was that he had to be 17 or older. He had to be basically signed, getting ready to go to an institution.
Right.
So
now, back up a little bit. Signed and committed is two different things. We're talking about not just the commitment, but signed. That means he's or she's going to that school. They signed their letter of intent.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty much got a roster spot in where they're going.
Correct.
Not committed. Signed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make that plain, because a lot of times, people don't read the fine print, but they want to know about this, and I think that's one thing that's important is you have to read the fine print about it. But go on and keep explaining.
Yeah, man. So basically, having a kid that's 17 years or older, as well as signed and ready to go on to an institution. I did hear a few things about the rule possibly changing. It hasn't changed yet.
Right.
But as of right now, it's 17 or older, and they need to be already signed, getting ready to go to school.
Well, I think it opens it for, kids to have a chance to start to build that
brand, mm-hmm.
build that brand, build that resume when it comes to that, because when you blur the lines between amateurism and professionalism with how NIL is kind of taken aback, that's the reason that I think that they kind of made it a safeguard. It's the beginning stages and the beginning talks. Mm-hmm. We all know that the state of Texas, in any sport, it's one of the most competitive environments that you'll find in the country.
Right.
And I think you want to make sure that, the athlete is protected by this, you know what I'm saying, and make sure that they understand what they're getting into, and read the fine print, because, legal contracts can be binding. When you look at, people start to throw money at athletes, you want to make sure that things are driven the right direction,
mm-hmm.
And so to speak. So, I think it's great. And I think that kids have an opportunity to do something that maybe helps them get to the next level as well. But I think, the difference and the reason I kind of wanted to make that point is not just being committed, signed. That means that you're going to that particular institution already. You're headed that way.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just, kind of flailing in the wind, or you don't know where you're going. I think it sets it up where they can kind of start building that. And 17, you're pretty much almost an adult, you know what I mean? And it doesn't, open the door for 14, 15-year-olds, because there are some 14 and 15-year-olds right now that are marketable.
Correct.
And they could do that.
Of them. Yes,
absolutely. And they could do that. Now, other states, they kind of already started that way. But, Texas is one of those states that's kind of, they don't want to open Pandora's box too soon, because, once the floodgates open, then, it's going to be open season.
Right.
But also, you have to understand how NIL is. It's not just about getting the money. Explain to what, really break it down, NIL, what that means.
So NIL basically means name, image, and likeness. Mm-hmm. So like he stated, it's not all about money. It's about being able to – it's different ways of receiving NIL, whether it's being compensated with a restaurant. It could be compensated with cars. It could be compensated with anything. It's not just revenue. You have kids that have these high following base, and they're very marketable. These companies are basically reaching out to these kids, looking at them to promote their brand or promote whatever they're doing.
Right.
So they're able to gain that attraction, and they're basically taking care of the person who's being their ambassador or things like that.
Right.
That's how it typically, the NIL typically go when it comes to that.
Right. Name, image, and likeness. That means that they're using your name, your likeness, and your image to promote something. That means they're, you're in a marriage, you're aligned with them. So you also have to be explaining, hey, when you're promoting this means that you're affiliated with it. You have to be kind of 10 toes down. It needs to be something that you believe in as well. Talk about that and how you try to get that across, because you can't just jump at the first dollar that's given to you,
right,
or that's made available to you. You have to kind of vet them. You have to kind of do your homework, so to speak, on trying to get involved in that.
I always tell kids, at the end of the day, when it comes to the NIL thing, just make sure that you're not signing anything that doesn't make sense. You have people that are advising and looking over what's going on. But at the end of the day, like, being marketable and doing things that you feel will help your brand, I ultimately push towards kids. It's not just about revenue; it's about opportunity and things like that. That's my main take on that.
Well, I think the opportunity is out there, and I think sometimes people get it misunderstood that okay, they're just giving them money. They're really just throwing money at them, so to speak, just to do it. But there's a compensation, but there's also something that the athlete or the person has to give in order to get that. Their time,
right?
Not just their likeness and image, but they have to be invested in this thing too. And I think that's something that maybe you don't understand or don't see if you're not really in it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's a real important piece that people don't get to understand. That. How do you explain that? What's the process like when you kind of guide these athletes to give them the information they need to have, but as well as pointing them in the right direction?
When it comes to that, man, I always tell the kids, man, like, everything, sometimes it's too good to be true. Like,
right.
Somebody may say, hey, man, I'll give you this if you come do this and do that. Sometimes that may not be the case. Like I always tell the kids, just make sure that you have someone who's in the field, educated on what's going on, as well as the foundation behind you when it comes to getting any type of NIL or anything that deals with money or anything like that. Make sure you got the proper people around you and things like that.
Well, I think that's key. You don't want to just dive into something that you don't know anything about, and that's with anything. You know what I'm saying? And we want to make sure that they're educated about it. And that's one thing that we do here on Your Marc Show each week, is try to educate and elevate you when it comes to exposure, recruiting, and anything that you need to do to get yourself or set yourself apart. Shout out to my guy Jackie Bridges for tapping in today. Shout out to my guy J Mac from the Dub, tapping in today, man. Anybody that's watching, man, you got any questions, tap in, man. Drop it in the comments. My guy Jordan Grant in the building today. We're talking a little bit about some exposure, some NIL things. The state of Texas, that's one of the big things now. So, the class 2027s, they on the clock now.
For sure.
Last Sunday, I believe, that's when they started to be able to get college coaches to really tap into them. How's that been going for you, and what has that been like? You've been talking to your guys in that round.
Man, they excited. They're able to actually be able to talk to them without having to go through a middleman or whatever. It's been super exciting for the 27s, man. I'm excited for that class. I got a lot of young bucks coming up in that class.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, I know, in the state of Texas in football, and anybody that's been listening to me talk for a while, the 2027 in football class in football is deep.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the most talented classes in the country. In the state of Texas, from top to bottom, position to position, and you're seeing these guys benefit that, by being recruited heavily around the country, not just here in the state of Texas. But these guys in this particular class, I've had a chance to see develop since they were in the middle school ranks, and now it's coming to be, hey, this is one of those classes that's talked about. That 27 class is just deep, and shout out to those guys, getting those recruiting visits and things going on, and really just staying steadfast with it. Now, in your experience, what are some of the things that you've been kind of sharing with your parents and players, to get to that exposure to go to the next level? What are some of the keys that you kind of get across to them?
Always some of the main takeaways for me is I'm always showing the parents and families what I can do rather than what I'm just saying. Like, so I'm hitting coaches, I'm sending film, I'm on visits, I'm in the gym. So everything that I'm pretty much telling them, they kind of see it more than me just telling them. So it's more of, okay, yeah, this dude is in the gym, this dude is networking, this dude got clients, this dude has got 2 kids signed, this dude has this. So it's kind of like a the more I show, the better it is for me on my aspect. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. Now, when you're in the gym, and you're talking and you're on the phone with these college coaches, what are they looking at? What do they want to see from these kids? To get them on campus, to get the exposure. What are they looking for? Now, basketball probably is position specific, just like football as well. You got your front court players, your point guards, backcourt players, your point guards, your shooting guards, and now you got that flex 4 now that
Right.
these guys that can shoot the 3 and play down low. And then you still got bigs, which I think is a lost art
Right.
in basketball. You don't have the guys that just back them down like Shaq, the Kareems and stuff like that. You got the big guys that want to shoot the 3. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big topic in basketball. But what are college coaches looking for?
Man, I'm gonna start it off by first saying, being coachable and having great character.
Absolutely.
That starts before anything. If you're not coachable, no coach, you can be Michael Jordan. If you ain't coachable, if a coach can't tell you this and tell you that,
Man, say it again.
if they can't tell you this and tell you that, and you obey by what they're telling you or listen, they don't even want to deal with you. So when it comes to recruiting, I always make sure I'm dealing with guys that are coachable, that understands, listens before talent even talks. Then of course you got the guys that are super big, and you got the guys that are quicker and more athletic and more talented. That's when that comes in. But
Right.
majority of the time when it comes to the first question I always get from coaches is, how's the kid? How's the kid outside of basketball? How's the kid?
Right.
How's his life? How's his how's his parents?
Right.
Those are some of the first questions that coaches always ask. Then they go into the what can he do? What does he do well, and what does he not do well, and things like that.
Right. Now, you talked about the parents. You talked about the outside life off the court. A thing that, goes into recruiting. You're recruiting the parents as well. And the parents have to know that. So how do you try to get that across? Because the parents have to be involved in this process as well. They have to be educated how this process works. But they have to also know that they're being recruited along with the athlete. Talk about that a little bit.
So for me personally, I let the parent be the parent. I always tell them, like, at the end of the day, just be mom and be dad. Support your kid, make sure they're doing everything correctly. But when it comes to, advocating for them, always keep everything professional. Never questions, never. I'm not gonna say never, but pick and choose when you want to question certain things when it comes to recruiting and things like that. So typically how I do it, I always, be the messenger for the parent, because I know how to get it to the coach to where it all makes sense, as well as get the answer back to the parent.
Right.
But that's the biggest thing, is just being able to understand and just be the parent rather than, trying to be the coach and be the everything. Because I didn't seen top talent parents mess off good kids just off
Absolutely.
Just off what they see or how they portray things.
Absolutely.
So, that's a big part in all of that as well.
Well, I think that's a key topic that maybe people don't look at, on the surface. The parents' behavior, how they react to things. It's a little bit more closer and intimate with basketball. You know what I'm saying? Because you can hear things and see things a little bit better with football.
It's a little outside.
In the regular season, now 7-on-7 is a little bit different, but we're talking about regular season. They're in the stands. It's a bigger crowd. Basketball, AAU is a little bit different. Even in high school, the setting's a little different. So, the actions, the way you carry yourself, all has to do with being recruited. And I think a lot of times, that can, and you mentioned that. I've seen it where, a coach will come to a game or come out to see the player and watch how the family or anybody reacts, and they walk out and you've seen offers being taken off the table.
I've seen it before. I've seen it happen a lot of times, and I've had to tell. It's been parents. I've tell them like, look, man, like it's not the way you go about things, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is messing up for your kid.
Right.
It's not even about you. It's about the kids. So
right.
At the end of the day, just being able to understand that particular aspect is key.
Right.
So I always tell the parents and try to keep the parents. I always try to advocate for the kid rather than just letting the parent, because parents can always, it switch.
Yeah.
They can switch the snap of a finger,
Right.
So it's all about being professional with everything and making sure everything makes sense.
Well, I mean, I think that's a big piece. You can always go up and look at things in the professional ranks. We got parents that jumping out on the courts and doing things like that. Heated situations. It's one of those things where you have to understand the whole entire
business
picture, that bigger picture. And I think like I said, from the pros to the collegiate ranks to high school, and now with the youth model, things like that. You have to have a certain way you have to move,
right?
And that's important,
right?
And that can affect this, a coach or a staff coming out and removing a scholarship or extending a scholarship based on that. Everything that you mentioned today is one of those things. It's paramount that you have to understand that when it comes to relationships, exposure, all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Now, with basketball, it's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit more intimate because, football, you got a helmet on and you kind of have to, weed through it and find out when they take the helmet. Basketball, everybody can see you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's, it really is the ultimate exposure in a sense, if you want to say it like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so it's not one of those things where you can hide or run from it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's key to doing it. But on a basketball thing, what are some of the things that you try to get across to these guys that they have to work on? Outside of that, I think academics is the most important thing. How do you guys try to get that across?
Man, academics is huge. It's a couple schools that I know of where you have to have at least like a 4.0 to even get into. So academics is a huge part. I know several kids that I went to high school with. They were top high major guys, but academic wise, they didn't meet the requirements, so they weren't even able to go high major.
Right.
So you're looking at guys going JUCO and going to smaller schools to try to get into those higher institutions. So education is a big part in it. As far as academics, for the youth, I always tell the kids, like, at the end of the day, man, like, I always preach, like, just make straight A's.
Absolutely.
You make straight A's, you ain't got to worry about nothing.
Right.
I don't like C's. I want A's and strictly B's. If you get a B, cool, but A's that's typically what I preach to my my middle school kids.
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to high school, I always made this declaration, even in my own household. When you get to the 9th grade, you got 4 years to do it. If you can't do it in 4 years, then you're not gonna do it.
Yeah,
you got to start off the first day you hit the campus as a freshman in high school till you get done. It's cumulative.
Right.
You have to understand that. The first day you step on is the first day of the 4 years of your life that you got to get it right. And if you don't get it right in those 4 years, and we talk about academically, then you got an issue.
Right.
You got a problem.
Right.
It's 4 years worth of work. It's 4 years worth of academia or academic performance that you have to be worried about. You have to be steadfast to that. Just like you mentioned, you have to be just as intentional about your academics as you are on the field of athletics. You know what I'm saying?
It's called self-discipline.
Absolutely.
Self-discipline is a key thing when it comes to, making good grades and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can explain it any more, clearer than that. If you don't get the academics, they're not gonna look at you athletic. I don't care how cold you are or how good you are. If you jumping out the gym, if you got a 45-inch vertical, if you can't make a 3-point above, you in trouble.
Even in college, I have kids. Another question that coaches come off and ask, "Hey, man, send me his transcript. I need to see what his grades look like or what his class look like." Grades are super important when you get to college as well. So just FYI, the kids out there that's going into college, just make sure that when you do get to college that you are taking the time to do your work whenever it's given to you, because everything's gonna be given to you at one time. So it's like Here's your work for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It needs to be in by Friday. Just make sure that you get it done in a timely manner.
Absolutely. Now, the transfer portal is one thing that you're pretty versed in as well. And it's really one of those things that's really kind of changed the game of college athletics. I think the biggest thing for me, what the portal does is, sometimes guys are late bloomers. That they don't have a chance to do what they need to do in high school. It gives you the opportunity to go and perform at a school, let's just say a lower level, get 2 to 3 years worth of college ready preparation when it comes to academics and athletically, and then it allows you to level up if you do it the right way.
Correct.
Now, you also have to know how to navigate the portal in the right way. And not just, because there's a lot of kids that get stuck in the portal and they jump in and never come out.
Right.
Now, some aspects now that, people don't talk about, they're being led into the portal as well. So
right.
You have to know how to navigate this thing. The transfer portal is kind of one of those things whether either you love it or you hate it. I kind of lean towards, if you use it the proper way for your improvement, I think it's great. But if you don't understand the nature of the beast, then you're going to be left out in the cold. Talk about the portal a little bit and, some of the things that you try to get across to these athletes when they're thinking of making that decision.
So typically the way I do it when I'm dealing with the portal guys, I always typically hit a few schools up before I even had the kid hit the portal so that I to see, brew and see what type of schools are interested in what level. And
right.
Because with basketball, you were looking at over 3,000 kids in the portal. This is like year 2 kind of doing this.
Yeah.
It's been just growing steadily with a lot of kids in the portal, not having no system, nobody behind them to where they're able to be guided into that right direction. So with me, the guys that I work with, I always, test the, see who's out there looking at the kid, seeing what programs he could fit into before he even hits the portal. So that way, once we hit the portal, it's already been built up to where, hey, boom, we already kind of know which direction we gonna go. So it's not like we stand still, because it's more like the longer you wait in there, the lesser opportunity it will be for you when it comes to getting to a school and things like that.
Right. Well, I think you also have to know where you want to go. I think before you jump in the portal, you got to have an idea of what you want to do.
You got to kind of know if you're gonna be low major, mid major, high major,
right?
And already kind of have
where you fit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that matters, because if not, you'll just be sitting
lost.
there. You'll be just sitting there.
Sometimes they don't even go in, they'll never come out.
Right, and it's not even particular just about a talent. Like, it's not even about a kid not being good enough. It's just a matter of having guys that are able to pick up the phone for you and get a coach to look at you, because not all the coaches can't see all 3,000 of those kids.
No.
A lot of those kids get lost just off the strength of not being able to have an advocate that can pick up the phone and get a coach to look at his film or be able to have things like that.
Well, I think it's important that you have the right message out. When you're thinking about things, and it's not a decision that some kids can make by themselves. It's a decision that has to be guided in the right direction. And I think you shouldn't go in it for monetary reasons as well. Is it going to benefit you to do it? A lot of times, you go in as a freshman and you may not play a lot. It's a reason you're not playing a lot. Some things that maybe you got to work on and off the field that affect that as well, and you have to know that, and somebody has to be really expressing that to you before you make that jump and before you get out there, and you can't be.
I see it all the time.
I see
kids go. Kids have these high majors, these schools that offering them that where in reality, like it sound good to say I'm going here and going there, but in reality, you get there, you're not playing, so it's like now you got to go backwards, you got to go back down levels, and then you got to rebuild yourself back up.
Right.
So it's like just having that group or those people around you that are helping you when it comes to making these decisions, and having these advocates and these coaches who got trust that you trust to help you with these decisions. That's the main thing.
Well, I mean, it's big business now. College athletics at every level is big business, and it's less than 10%. That's about 7 or 8% that go on to play at any level of college athletics. It's a small window. It's thousands and millions of kids playing at the high school level. But as you go up, as you level up, the window gets smaller.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you go up to the professional ranks, it's the 1% of the 1%. And that's, with basketball, you can play overseas and things like that. That's even smaller.
Right.
Something about you has to be special for you to get to that next level. And I think the earlier, we go back to the early identification thing, the earlier you can start to see those things, the earlier you can start to see those traits, the earlier you can start to develop those traits and nurture those things, you find out that you're more successful.
I agree. Yep, development is key for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, if you don't have that piece, then you in some sense you might get left out in the cold. You know what I mean? And you have to understand that and be directly involved with that. You know what I'm saying? So, that's one big reason we wanted to have you on today, to kind of get that, as well as, we touched on NIL, we touched on exposure and things like that. And I think that's all wrapped up, So, tell me about some of the things you got coming up this summer.
So this summer, man, I got a few visits that I need to go on. I have one visit that I need to go on with a football kid. I have the TABC, which is this weekend coming up.
Talk about that, because that's big. That's
the
big.
TABC is more all the schools in Texas come down and play at one spot. And
now this is high school teams that's in the select thing.
high school.
Yeah,
so,
talk about that.
So it's more of, I love it because it's, it's for the kids. It's basically a live period for all of the high schools to come out and play. So I look at it as like an opportunity for kids that aren't able to go play at a high level or play on a team where they're being sitting in front of 50 different coaches. So it's a big opportunity for the Texas kids to get exposure. And so it's going to be about 40 to 60 coaches at different locations, recruiting these kids. So it's gonna be a live period, a great event for sure.
And it's right here in the DFW, right?
Yes, sir.
Where's that gonna be?
It's gonna be going on at Duncanville. You got Duncanville High School, and I'm not sure where the last location is, but it'll be around the Duncanville.
It'll be around the DFW. Yeah, I saw something about that this morning. I lean more heavily on the football side, but I know that this big showcase is major. This is where these kids get identified very early. If you're a freshman or sophomore, and you're playing in this exhibition, this is big for you.
Oh yes, most definitely it is. It's a great platform for like I said, the younger guys and the kids that aren't really getting the exposure that they need. These coaches, they're sitting in front of 50 to
front row,
60 coaches just playing basketball.
And these will be coaches that you see on TV all the time.
Yeah,
there'll be big name guys there
for sure, most definitely, yes sir. But outside of that, man, I got I'm supposed to be going to Atlanta pretty soon to the Under Armour session, session 3.
Right.
And then my last session, I'm supposed to be going to California for the Adidas last session. And then I'm planning on visiting my other two kids, making sure they're moved into their apartments good. And, everything's flowing good as far as in culture, the team, and everything, all of that.
Absolutely.
So that's my plans for the rest of the summer.
Absolutely. Now I would be remiss. Shout out to my brother, my brother Donovan. He's a Morehouse man as well.
Oh yeah.
And I know how y'all guys roll. He would.
That's
right.
right.
What I'm saying? He gonna tap in and see this, man.
Connect us.
No, for sure. He's a Morehouse graduate. Bleeds that maroon through and through. Talk about Morehouse and shed some light on that as well. I know that's one of those big things for you as well.
Yeah, I'm a Morehouse man for sure, man. I graduated in 2023. Man, it taught me a lot, man. It taught me leadership. It taught me how to be a man. I was just a forward kid. I moved from here.
Yeah.
Jumped in my car, man, and went on to Georgia, and it's changed me, man. And I'm just grateful to be able to say that I graduated from there, and I built a lot of relationships, man. I'm thankful to be a Morehouse brother for sure.
Absolutely, man. Shout out to Morehouse, man. Shout out to the A for sure. You know what I'm saying? Also, listen, it's one of the big North Crowley guys as well. Anytime we talk, he always wants to know what I think. You know what I'm saying? But, shout out to my guy, Coach Gates. And the fam over there, and then North Crowley on the hoop side is coming
Coach
back.
Brackle, yep, they doing their thing. They got some young
bucks
over there, man.
I know.
Sure.
Talk about North Crowley basketball first.
So North Crowley basketball itself, it holds weight in the state of Texas.
Yep.
Coach Brackle, the head honcho over there, man.
Absolutely.
he called all the shots, but you know he got some guys over there this year that they're gonna be pretty good this year.
And they're participating this weekend as well.
Yes, sir. They'll be playing this weekend.
Yeah.
They'll be at Duncanville Fieldhouse as well as Duncanville High School playing.
Right.
So
Right.
I think they play Cabolo Steel.
Cibolo out of San Antonio.
Yes.
Yeah.
They play them. I forgot the two other teams.
Yeah, for sure.
It's some good competition.
I want to say I think they play South Oak Cliff from that most. Do they play South?
No, they don't play.
They don't play South.
Not in the TABC.
Not in the TABC. Okay.
We just played them in the spring league.
Okay, that was what I saw. I saw something on social media.
Spring league, yeah, we did,
yeah.
But this weekend we'll be playing a few schools from out of the DFW area.
Okay,
so.
for sure. But you're gonna be in the house for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
You'll see me on the sideline networking, man.
Okay,
So,
man, I might have to reach out to you and figure. I might have to slide and see a little competition, see what it do. You know what I'm saying?
most definitely.
Yeah. We're gonna tap in about that for sure.
Yes, sir.
Man, well, listen, I appreciate my guy Jordan Grant for tapping in, man. This is the part of the show. Give out your social medias, how they can get in touch with you.
How y'all doing? So my social media is NIL_agent JG on Instagram, Twitter, and my Facebook is Jordan Grant.
Listen, man, tap in with my guy. This is all we got for you this week. Of course, we'll be back every week, Wednesday at 11 o'clock right here on Radio Network, the On Your Mark Show, powered and sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. We're going to let my guy Maynard Mike take us out. We out.
Hey, this Manna Mike. I'm not sure what you own, but this here is on the mark. Like a spiral from a 5-star recruit, we throwing darts, really focused. WD-40 couldn't stop the way we grinded. In the trenches, putting that work in, I relate to all my linemen. This is for the men, the boys do not belong here. Tiptoeing to the top, we doing cone drills. The hottest show in the world, you don't even gotta search. Steady putting in work, you see the sweat up on my shirt. They wasn't aware of us at first, we wasn't on their radar. Now every play that we make, they gon' say, similar to a razor blade, we gon' stay sharp. The news ain't official if it's not on the mark.